All right, 23 Roadglide CVO, Cicada CH65s mounted with a 1/4" spacer. Fairing is on, bolted, nice gaps all the way around. Bottom bolts aren't on, but everything's in place. Top bolts are there. Top bolts are there. All right. So now let's pop it off. This is our 23 and up Roadglide Mega Mount. For everyone that wants to add big audio on these without a tour pack or trying to limit what you can put in the tour pack, anyone that's done an install on these knows the limitations with the fairing. Even on ours, we've had all of our amps in the tour pack all this time, because even us, we haven't been able to figure out a way to do it until now. So we're gonna be fitting some different amps, showing what it can all be done. So fairing coming off, no cuts. This is a Cicada setup, so this is for the Cicada guys. This is our new Mega Rack. 3 pieces. You do have to trim your factory pods, but these bikes didn't even have pods until 2014, so it's not the end of the world. And if you're gonna run 8" pods on your fairing, like a lot of people end up doing down the line, you won't have pods anyway. Headlight is fully supported, bolted on by our rack. It's all laser cut aluminum, 1/8", bent here in house. You do have to trim, obviously. There's some trimming, but this is for the more advanced installer and someone that's looking to do something more advanced. So we have our 2500 by 1 Cicada. So if you're gonna be running 10s in the bags, this is what you'd be running. FLX 1400 by 4, FLX 1400 by 4, ARC Audio DSP, distribution block. Factory amplifier is installed under the rack, flipped behind the headlight. If you have the black CVO amp, it will not fit. At that point, you have to get the nav TV or the volunteer audio adapter, or you have to get a silver CVO amp. But at this point, the nav TV seems to be the best option. So this has the silver amp mounted underneath. All this is bolted on. The headlight's solid. The fairing is solid. It retains your mount points here for your fairing. Your mount points are there for your fairing. Plenty of room for wiring. Still have a full distribution block here. So this is a Cicada setup. This is 3 Cicada amps. So now we're gonna swap this out for a MMAT setup and show you what MMAT's amps fit here. All right, now here's the MMAT setup. So again, here's the fairing back on. Bolted, bolted. Gaps are all there. We don't even have the side bolts in, but you can see that they're touching there, touching there. Nothing's being forced. So I'm gonna pop that off. You know these, you know that gap needs to be tight, otherwise it's not on. You get a lot of pressure here normally on this vent. Pop this off here. Oh. All right. Fan's clipped on too good. All right, here we go. Same rack. MMATs, LSX. 2600 by 4, 1400 by 4, ARC Audio PSM Pro above it, 1400 by 4, 600 by 4, factory amp underneath, distribution block in the front. The fairing comes past this point. So even though your wires are coming out in the front here, as long as you're using a nice flexible OSC, you can have your wires come out. The fairing comes out almost a 3/4 inch past this point. So you can definitely have your wires running along here, feeding everything from this distribution block. Obviously, you could run this a lot of different ways. You could not have this amp here and move everything back a little bit. You could have a different DSP back here possibly, or you could run, you know, your 4K in the back. Everyone's gonna ask if the 4K fits here. The answer is kinda. It's very tight, but you can fit the 4K here. You just won't be able to have the amp behind it. You need to have maybe some smaller amps on the sides but it does physically fit in the spot. But you have to remember, you have factory plugs here that need to be plugged in, and that needs to be part of the factory. But again, look how strong the mount is. Everything's nice and solid. This is 1/8 inch aluminum, so you can tap this with a fine thread screw, and you can actually mount everything right to the plate. 4K fits tight. Now, if you had 1 amp over there, maybe, and maybe just had this one, or you had this out a little bit, but that's a 4,000 under the fairing, 23 and up Roadglide. So now we're gonna do a sound digital setup. We'll see what fits under there with the sound digital. All right, so here's the sound digital setup. Same deal, Cicada CH65s installed. If you could fit these, you can fit Euphorias, you can fit basically any coaxial 6.5. 3,000 by 1, 400 by 4. This is technically a 1,600 by 1, but it's the same size as a 1,200 by 4. So you can do 1,200 by 4s on either side. This is an 800 by 4, and it shows you how much space you have all the way around it. If you're gonna do two 800s and a 3K, all day long. Still have room for distribution up front. Still have room to put something else back here if you don't want this 400 by 4. Technically, the Sound Digital 5K will fit in the same layout, just like how the MX 4K was very tight. The Sound Digital 5K will also be very tight. But if you're gonna have your bass amp in your tour pack or in the back somewhere, and you're gonna have everything else under the fairing, this is now the only way to do that. So this is a Sound Digital setup here. We're talking the ability to run over 5,000 watt RMS under the fairing. So lots of different options, lots of different things will fit. We'll have these available very, very soon. All right, here's the rack bare. So we have a couple changes that are still being made to the production ones. Mostly it's gonna be a little clearancing around the speaker pocket here. It just barely touches as is. We do include longer bolts for the headlight. You can see where we have clearance around the little bumps for that. This plate bolts to this plate. This plate bolts to the middle plate. And then this back plate bolts to the factory mount. You can see the blue paint where it was cut, just to kind of show how that is. The pods do come apart, so you could technically leave the outside part of the pod if you want. If you cut it, then you just gain more room. So all the pod is still there. Now, this is the other thing. If we have those new 8 pods coming from Voodoo and Insane Asylum, I assume very soon, then you're not going to be able to use your storage boxes either. So that's going to open up this. So now you're going to have even more room down here to put small amp, DSP. But even for the budget guys, here's a PRV 2000 by 4. This amp does not fit on the older Roadglides because it's too tall. But with this mount, it will fit under here. This is 2,000 watts for $200. That's the most budget amp I think there is right now. And it will fit with this mount. So yes, you do have to do some cutting, but if you're not afraid to cut, this is what you can get. So these will be available for pre-order. And we're gonna have the first batch coming by the end of the month. And we also have another rack that retains the pods. We'll be making a separate video about that.